wanna be. Help me understand why I rap when I'm help me understand why you can't be what you wanna be. Help me understand where you are in the melody.
What's going on? I'm Shy with Help Me Understand. Today I'll be discussing a short story by Alice Walker called To Hell with Dying, published in 1967. Before I talk about To Hell with Dying, there's a few things you should know about Alice Walker. This amazing lady wrote The Color Purple, which is considered a classic. It won National Book Award for hardcover fiction, and it's a Pulitzer Prize winner. She's a Black American novelist, short story writer, activist, and poet. Now that we got that out the way, let's discuss To Hell with Dying. To Hell with Dying is about an older man named Mr. Sweet. He's a guitar player, diabetic, and an alcoholic. I know that's a interesting combination. Not the best combination for a healthy lifestyle. Mr. Sweet lives down the road from the narrator when she was growing up. The narrator reflects on the relationship she and the family had with Mr. Sweet and also tells us a bit about Mr. Sweet's life. Mr. Sweet had been ambitious as a boy, you know. He wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a sailor until he realized he was black. There go America again, you know, stopping people from being great. Instead of being all those things he dreamed of being, he settled with being a fisherman. That was more suitable for a black man in the early 1900s and mid 1900s. It's an interesting relationship between the narrator and Mr. Sweet. She loved Mr. Sweet because he was very kind and, I guess coy with her. Mr. Sweet became pessimistic. He kind of let himself go, and the neighborhood allowed him to have a friendly relationship with all the kids in the neighborhood. So he was just a cool old guy. He wasn't in the best health condition. He would often have close calls with death throughout the narrator's life, but he would always make it through. Drinking was the main reason for his health complications. With Mr. Sweet surviving after having a stroke and other health complications, the narrator began to have an immortal perceived view of Mr. Sweet's life. Even when Mr. Sweet grew old and has a long gray beard, death still doesn't seem possible to the narrator. She just views Mr. Sweet as her old teddy bear. It's not until Mr. Sweet's 90th birthday, reality sets in for the narrator and she realizes Mr. Sweet is gonna die. She returned home from college after receiving a telegram saying Mr. Sweet is dying. He ultimately dies and leaves her his guitar. I mean, this is kind of like a sidebar, but I was surprised Mr. Sweet lived to be 90. People with excellent health don't live that long. The man had diabetes, was an alcoholic, and survived a stroke. If I was a narrator, I would have had the same idea about Mr. Sweet not dying. Seemed immortal. I also enjoyed how Alice Walker wrote about the non-blood family environment in the community. Uh, I didn't experience that growing up. A lot of my peers didn't as well. It's that camaraderie within the community, which I feel like is healthy. I think the parallel there is perspective and not being overly protective over your child. Let them go outside the gate. Let them, obviously under supervision and with you knowing and getting building relationships with the people on your specific block, and to build strong relationships that your child can benefit from. This story displays how important platonic love can be. Through the story, there were a number of times when Mr. Sweet displayed affection for the narrator, not in a sexual or creepy way, but it, they were able to express that love, and it shows how healthy that could be for children and adults. Um, Overall, this was a good short story, extremely brief. It'll take about 30 minutes to read. The link to the story is down below in the description box. Check it out and share your thoughts.